Hello, and welcome back to the Geek on My Sleeve channel. This is Geek Out 118 over Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. And yeah, changing up the setup again, life and things, but thoroughly enjoyed the addition to the series. And like I said before, this is definitely kind of a palate cleanser, more so on the whimsical side of books. So was a nice addition to reading repertoire.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one that I go back to and re-listen to whenever I'm just looking for the laughs. I mean, we pretty much have Carl, even though they spell his name wrong. What was he? He's a ex Coast Guard.
Yeah,
right?
He did more like ship and boat mechanic stuff after getting out of the Coast Guard.
Right. More of your traditional macho man, bit more on the simpler side of things. And then his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut. And yeah, you did such a great job kind of explaining it. It's you said it's kind of like a cross between Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and
May the odds ever be in your favor.
Yeah, Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. So, and what I essentially mean by that is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's like everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you have aliens, and they're like, hey, we're going to build a space highway. Well, for this one, it's different. It essentially says, hey, you guys didn't fill out the proper paperwork for all your materials, so we're going to requisition the materials and make a televised show of whoever survived to fight through this dungeon. And yeah, we have an AI controlling the dungeon, but then more Hunger Games-esque because it is televised and there are sponsors and, you know, talk shows and, you know, they catch you in between floors and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the end of book one, book two, in book one, we managed to get through two levels, the first two levels.
Yep.
And Carl and Princess Donut pretty much start out on floor 3. And, what's their...
their class selection.
Yeah, their game guide /
Mordecai.
Mordecai, yes. Yes, he kind of becomes one of my favorite characters as well. They have a very interesting dynamic. Mordecai's kind of like our Gandalf type character guiding us along the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, they finally get to pick their classes. Princess Donut goes with child actress.
That sounds right. Where essentially she can pick a new class every floor,
Mm-hmm.
and then I forget what she goes for, or it's like artist alley mogul,
Yeah.
and she ends up with a couple unique abilities for squishies.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So she has since she picked a cat, she has the 9 lives trait where the first 9 attacks to hit her are at half or reduced damage,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting, and I enjoy the mechanic. And then she has the chance to not die with a lethal damage. I can't remember the name.
Is it cockroach skill?
That might be it.
Does that sound right?
Which I thought was interesting and unique.
Oh, hey, it's
And
an
then
overpowered ability. Because for a lit RPG, there's no respawns on this, right? Typically no.
Yeah. For the situation our main character's in, no. But with that, we get the manager benefit, and that's where Mordecai, instead of descending and going to, okay, thank you, White Thatch there. So it is the cockroach skill, which
Good to
is
see you, buddy. Kind of a final save.
Yeah, chance saving throw, D&D-esque terms for not taking lethal damage.
And then Carl gets anarchist,
or it's like something anarchist, where
right?
it's oxymoron or forwardly backwards.
And I just get a kick out of the AI's descriptions on things, like with a child actress one, talking about how was a child actor, then did drugs, hit rock bottom, and now's your moment for redemption, and just like all that. It's a bit more crude humor, but at the same time, if you're okay with a little bit of adult humor, definitely get some good laughs out of the AI's commentary.
Yep.
And
I'll say the like, so for the storyline, it's primarily broken into 2 sections for me. You have the big top. I'm drawing a blank. Circus.
You have the quest that we had.
Yeah, you have the circus quest scene, and then the secondary part is the Skyfell settlement where you have the more of the long-winded quest. They.
White Thatch says they should never have given that AI access to the Earth's internet. Yeah,
I enjoy the humor, but I don't know how many other alien species have the foot thing going on. But
yeah, the AI's foot fetish is certainly quite comical.
Yeah.
That's why we keep Carl in his heart boxers and bare feet.
Yeah, his big boy boxers.
Mm-hmm.
We got him buffed for this one too.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, like you're saying, like we have the quest, which I thought was interesting, and it introduced some new dynamics to the game, because you were talking about pretty much like the hosts, the company that have claim on the planet, do the game or the dungeon, and they kind of have their own agenda, but then additional groups can come and kind of write their own storylines to kind of do additional mini shows.
I felt like everybody is involved. We have the elites, which is what you're talking about, for they can do their own mini plots and mini shows, and the elites are the main characters of it, and was a very interesting dynamic for it. And then you also have like Audette, where she has her own talk show, and it's
it'll be interesting to learn more about Audette in the later books. I know that book 5 is currently getting recorded right now. Really looking forward to that. But yeah, Audette was one that, what'd she get to, like floor 11 or something like that?
Or I don't.
Like she got pretty
She
far.
mentions it, but
Mordecai
I
got pretty
know
far.
she's now out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
she was Mordecai's guide when he went through it.
Right.
So
Right.
has been quite a while since all that took place.
Yeah, and we get some more foreshadowing about just those different dynamics and what can happen. Like one of the ways that you quote unquote win is you take like a settlement agreement, right? Depending on what floor you get to, and you get better
That's
offers.
currently the only way out, because they say, or in book 1, it was like, oh, reach floor 18 and you get control of all the resources.
Mm-hmm. But the furthest anybody's got is
13.
Yeah. But we have a moment towards the end, just jumping around, where Princess Donut pretty much tells Carl, like, hey, I don't want to be an NPC, right? And we kind of get to see Carl's struggle of where, you will not break me. Just kind of really, really fighting that. Go ahead and snag that one. White Thatch says, with them shortening the time, I look forward to more of the empire that Carl pissed off failing. Yes.
But that's where there's like 3 separate dynamics there. We have the people who are running the show,
mm-hmm.
and they need the money.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the people who ran the talk show, who he had the snick or whatever with
in book 1.
In book 1, mm-hmm. And then that created a lot of controversy. But they're on the other side of the people who are trying to essentially collect. And that's like a separate bankruptcy dynamic. But my understanding is King Stalwart, I believe is the name. Mm-hmm. He isn't high enough up to really have a huge impact on that. But we do know he is on floor 9 prepping for the faction wars.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to that, because through the different talk show scenes, we kind of get to see a little bit more outside of the dungeon and the different kind of like galactic dynamics there that are going to come into play on floor 9. And you have like the different gods where it's pretty much pay to play.
I think that's a separate book that's further along.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get any god instances in this one.
Yeah, what we did get though with the Empire was the failed attack.
Yeah, where essentially Carl pisses them off, and then they fire, blowing up the
like the
singer.
Trailer.
Yeah, the trailer killing the singer.
And they switched because she had a shower.
Yep.
Because they were pretty much like late to the show, because I forget, was that when they were coming out of the main quest? Yeah.
No, or they finished the main quest. They had a little bit of time. They were just out and about. It turned to night, and that was when the zombies and whatnot. And then Carl threw the bomb while he was essentially blinded, or it was dark. And yeah,
gotcha.
Zombie gore everywhere.
Yeah. We get to learn more about White Thatch. They killed the lady from the Fifth Element, those meanies. Yeah. There are some little references in there. Not too heavy on the pop culture references, but we do get some of them. But yeah.
And so like this is pure speculation at this point, but I could very easily see more stuff going down. The people who are trying to rush the season to collect the money to get out of bankruptcy, essentially, not being successful, and I believe it's Borant to take over, and for them to be like, hey, so we do our shows differently, just kidding, complete swap. And that's messing up a lot of things. I don't know. There are a couple angles we could go. We could go with like completing it, but I don't see Carl taking a typical role of, hey, I made it to floor whatever, and then I'm going to exit. I see him going more of, upsetting people and somehow escaping, maybe having some like they're up on a boat and then there's a ship in the sky and Donut decides that, hey, this isn't worth it. Some other event happens and they end up like teleporting onto a spaceship or something absurd. Or I don't know. I don't see him following the typical route, even though we're getting all of the information for, hey, at this floor this happens.
Well, we get to see it a bit towards the end here that Carl originally at the beginning of the book was trying to split with Donut when she was just being a bit too much. But then by the end of this book, like they've expanded their party to 3, and then they start working with the larger group of dungeon crawlers or adventurers when they have that explosion towards the end. Start like coordinating with them and helping them out.
Yeah. It seems like they or what White Satch says, it seems like they aren't as prepared as they should for this game, and that's very true. But that had to do with the dynamic of
them kind of rushing.
They're essentially they're bankrupt and they're about to have the Boran claim their assets, but if they're in process of doing the next game or the next I forget the verbiage for starting it or what it actually is. But yeah, since I started it, and then they're trying to find the balance between getting away with wiping out a bunch of them so that they can finish the game and making the high rollers or the influential people more so successful. That way they can continue to rake in the money. And we got to see them, get their one mulligan or their one rebuttal for.
That's right.
We were supposed to get a bunch of celestial loot boxes, which would have been more than ever was given out. And they said, nope, we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah. Which I always go back and forth on it when reading books. Like, it's sometimes fun to have your characters be too overpowered, but I much rather watch the journey of them scaling up to it instead of just getting some OP magic loot out the gate.
And that's where I've enjoyed the dynamic so far, because after our class selection, we knew that Carl was going to be essentially 5 levels under level due to his primal and due to his his class, something anarchist. And then we get thrown in like immediately into the quest line for the Circus. And of course, Mordecai's, opposite of Succubus, Incubus, and he's, his weakness is alcohol. This is White Thatch is clarifying. He's one of our marathon readers where we get into series and we just get current. And yeah, this is the one with the Circus and with the Skyfowl settlement where we destroy the lady with the beanie babies and deal with the undeads. Yeah. But with the Circus scene, like, that was unique because we essentially crippled Carl for not having Donut available because of the dynamics working there. And then we were caught in the, we are the red shirts plot armor of the elites. And then Carl's solution to it all was beautifully done. Just got enough points to get a skill that he couldn't use prior. And yeah, it was just, I enjoyed it, and I did not see it coming where he, all I remember is the AI's description for you look all ethereal and druid-like. Something about banging a vegan. But yeah, so essentially, yeah, takes the worms, almost poison or almost gets taken over by the leader of the circus, and then yeah, throws him a bone for another way for our main signet lady to get down to the hunting grounds. Yeah. Yep. Love that. Carl will have to deal with the story writers later. Yeah, that's definitely going to lead into more interesting things because, from our understanding, Signet something something is a half breed, and the elves kill any half breed, and the other side. Oh, I think it was kind of like a Genghis Khan reference where seeded a lot of children type deal.
Right.
Or sired.
Yeah. So floors 3, 6, and 9 are all the same storyline and plot. So we get introduced to that storyline here in this book on floor 3. And then I think you just said floor 9 starts the faction wars. So we pretty much have the storyline of 3, 6, and 9 build up, and then we get to 9 where we have the faction
we can
wars.
Have people come in and play.
Yeah, the big money from outside come in and pay to play. And then our gods and deities and all that other fun stuff. I think it's really going to be interesting just to see how all that plays out, especially since supposedly some of the players are getting more overpowered than usual just because of how they're accelerating things.
The balance mechanics between the AI can determine loot, but the organizers can determine XP and time. So,
yep. Did you want to do a quick summary of this book just for those who have bounced around a bit? I know we talked about the couple plots.
Main quick synopsis would be reach floor 3. Both of us select our classes. Then we go and essentially run smack first into monkeys throwing knives and giraffes, ninja giraffes flinging lemurs. We deal with the our circus arc where we have Signet, who is essentially banished from the circus because she did not get taken over by the plot or the story for 3, 6, and 9 is there was I think it was like 7-tier spell that goes off, and depending on where you were, it had differing effects, and it essentially changed people. And so with our main circus lead guy, he got turned into a plant, and he kind of infects all of his circus and makes it so that they can't die. They kind of go more or less feral, and they end up, the monkeys are part of it, and when you kill them, they don't die. I think it's the second time we go out. I think there was a brief respite somewhere where we meet back up with Mordecai.
After he has fun with somebody's grandma and gets really drunk.
I think we run into the monkeys. We're essentially getting overwhelmed. We find a safe area. Mordecai pops up. We get the whole sheath your sword and, grandma incident. Go back out, and we run into the more monkeys and essentially start to get overwhelmed or trying to retreat, mortar shells, and then Donut, has to jump up to widen the hole so that she can use her ability to bring everybody out. And we run into Signet, which is part of the circus. And her storyline is that she is bastard, where she, is disowned by her father, essentially, or didn't know it, and is a halfling, so wasn't able to stay with the elves, and then became part of the circus. Her cool main ability is that she has tattoos that she keeps alive with her blood, but then she has a unique sacrifice ability where she picks two creatures, selects who's going to die, casts her spell, and essentially locked in casting mode for the duration until, if she selected the correct one, who dies, the blood will go into it, and that will determine the power. And of course, there's a bunch of other determining factors for how strong they are when they come out. And her whole thing is she attacks the circus every night because they are no longer what they were. They're no longer bringing joy to people. They're essentially doing the opposite of what they should be doing. And that's where Carl is asking, our Kuatine lady, our agent, and asking her to talk to and navigate with, hey, what's the title of the production? And it's it's like something like Daughter's Revenge. So we know, hey, since that's the title of it, it's about Signet, and
it's her story.
Her getting down.
To jump around a bit, the way he handles that, I have a lot of respect for the author. In most of these books, it's pretty easy just to fall into the traditional role of, we're just going to smash our way out of this, right? So instead of him just brute forcing his way through, he pretty much figures out that he's getting set up to fail, and does kind of the blackmail of the TV show host to be like, hey, I'm willing to sign an exclusive deal to be on your show and deal with all that stuff, or I can completely just ruin this, heal him, walk away, and then there goes all your ratings and everything, right?
Yeah, it was very much the carrot and the stick. And kind of like what White Thatch was saying here, Carl's putting himself in both a good and a bad place. Seem to be building up where he will have factions that want to keep him alive and others that won't. And that's very true. Kind of like we were saying with the interview that we had, where essentially they tried to kill Carl. They missed, they killed someone else, and then they ended up shooting back and killing his wife. So Mordecai was like, hey, you're just supposed to taunt her, not kill her wife, or his wife.
Right.
But continuing, we end up going up against the bear, and I thoroughly... Oh, hey, Chaz.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, I know we got different time zones, but glad you can make it. We go and we fight the bear, who is part of the circus, and I enjoyed that mechanic there, where he has the roulette of fireball or custard, where it's either going to heal it or it's going to, blow it up. And it ended up healing it, but because it was so old and had been kept alive by the parasites, it was a unique twist that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Pretty much got the parasites out of her, right?
Yeah.
So then she was back to normal, quote unquote. But Carl still put her out of her misery.
Yeah, I needed to for it. And then, we go and we attack the circus. And it was very well executed between him chatting with his agent and trying to, he does the carrot and the stick, where either he's like, I can see the plot of everything. I know what's going to happen. So I can either continue to give you guys good ratings, or it was very well done. And then after that is concluded and Grimaldi, that's the guy's name, unbanishes Signet, I want to say. We essentially have Mongo, our Velociraptor, who's protecting Donut. He's essentially leveling up, but since Donut is in the water lily thing and unconscious, she's not leveling up. She almost dies. Her cockroach ability triggers.
Right. Yeah, you're just freaking on it today with the names. Look at you go.
Kind of. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we save Donut, and we're on to our next thing. Essentially, Mordecai's like, "Oh, this is going to be a glorious day. You're going to do exactly what I say, and not do any of these other things." And that of course doesn't go to plan. We end up making it to the Skyfell settlement, do a bit of shopping, our spending spree, so on and so forth. Meet up with an actual hobgoblin, which was a interesting scenario
with excellent hearing.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the whole working women of the night getting murdered, right? Like that.
We're sitting in the pub, and the lady comes up, and she's like, "Oh, I need your help," and Mordecai's pretty much like, "Nope, go away. We don't need a random side quest." And of course, Carl tries to go back and feels for her and tries to set everything right with her, and she's already gone.
He gets called out on everybody too in the process, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And
then I'm trying to remember. Then we go, or no, that's when we finally go on the talk show, and we meet with the leader of Brynhild's daughters. It's Hecla.
Yeah.
Hecla is pretty much like, oh, hey, since they started in different locations, they have different game guides, and one of the Brynhild daughters is close to where Carl and Donut are, so they agree to help her out. Then we get the whole show scene. It goes into killing the singer, and then it was supposed to be hitting Carl and Donut. We go back, we meet up again with Audette, or not Audette, our Kuatine lady. And then we are continuing. We run back into the NPC for the storyline. That's another element where the AI or the people who run the show have essentially genetically created people so they can change their mind and influence them. And we got to see a little bit of that with the goblins floor 1. But then in this one, there are some crawlers who get essentially turned into NPCs, because that's the guy who got resurrected and almost died at the end there.
Right.
But we run back into our lady, and we get the whole, if you wanted our attention, a pile of dead hookers is not a good icebreaker these days. You should have just got a milkshake. Carl likes milkshakes moment.
Yeah. Donut's so funny.
And then we say, we'll help. I think that's when we run into the random meat spell that takes Mongo, and he runs off into the dark, and we run into the 21st faction, the city elves.
Oh yeah.
And we Donut's torch spell ends up like banishing all of the undead. Killed the elf. Go back, talk to Mordecai, collect more stuff. Trying to remember where we go from there, because it's kind of like the second part is a longer arc. We go back out, and we find our quest giver dead. We pick up the scrolls, go back to the safe area, and are essentially trying to figure it out. And
only to have it raining bodies with a message.
For raining bodies, the message. We go try to talk to the magistrate. or the mayor of the Skyfell settlement, and we have the whole scene where essentially they say, "Oh, was it a Skyfell who was killed?" Yeah, more gore in this storyline.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh no, you know, no Skyfell that we know of were killed." Pretty much like, "Oh well, is that all you care about? Hey, can I leave the quest items here or whatever?"
Or the evidence. Can I leave the evidence with you? Yeah. And so he just dumps the body on.
Yeah, throws a dead body on the desk and throws the Beanie Babies every which way. And then, yeah. I remember chronologically. Then we meet back up with our shapeshifter. We meet the Brynhold daughter.
Yeah.
Lady.
Yeah, she's not quite what Mordecai is.
Or he's a changeling where he touches people and can change into it, where she essentially can mold herself into a shape.
Yeah.
Or doppelganger.
There we go.
Yeah, that was a word. Yeah, thank you, White Thatch.
Thank you, White Thatch. Good looking out, bud. And so that's something I really enjoy about this book is the classes are a lot of fun and not the traditional ones.
Or yeah,
right?
they're
like,
more, I guess.
There's literally hundreds of them. I think Carl had like 600 or something to pick from. And you know, they change every season. Like they have some like Earth-based ones, which both Carl and Princess Donut ended up picking. So yeah. Definitely some fun game mechanics. So they meet the new member of their party. Mordecai pretty much explains like she's a good tank but not a fighter. So Carl potentially in future books will be able to rotate out from the main tank role. If she hangs out.
It's a mobility tank where she gets better stats or can take more punishment while in motion. Yeah. All of their, it's very unique for their classes and skills, and maybe I'm thinking of a different book where they use an ability in a weird way. Anyway.
Oh, thank you, Juggernaut. White Thatch is on it. Yeah.
Or for Hecla's class.
Yeah, our old art teacher.
Yep.
So they figured out that the note that they had was actually like a necro scroll thing, so they could eavesdrop on them. So Carl and Donut use it to try to like set a trap, right? Is that where we're at in the storyline? So they go back. We think it's Miss Beanie Baby lady who is the one taking the girls or whatever.
Secretly a lich or something.
Yeah.
We're wrong, but that was what we were thinking.
So they go back. Our child actor Donut does her acting job, bit over the top, and then
I forget the name of the spell, but essentially we break out Clockwork Mongo. We feed him the scroll that way for GPS or I'm over here. And then we also, or no, I guess we didn't do the Boomy Boy or whatever. We planted the explosives when the Skyfell lady magistrate goes to get like wipes or whatever to wipe up our Beanie Babies, and then we put the explosives in the shelf as we were putting it back.
Yes.
But yeah, we blow it up. We essentially think we win and lose at the same time because we end up getting a beep block because we stopped another crawler from completing their quest because we killed an NPC. We become the mayor ourselves, which I'm curious to see how that plays out more. Mordecai pretty much is like, oh yeah, you can take them over and name them because they're only small, medium, and large settlements. I don't think we actually go through the process of naming it, but we're in a weird predicament where we've I can't no I guess we kind of skipped over the Oakfell 21st company. We had another run-in with them, and then we had the dwarf who had a salamander on a stick or something. But
yeah, the kids who are always having to help the mom who keeps birthing more and more babies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was saying because of that incident, we have the guards after us, and we're no longer welcome in the settlement. But then we killed the NPCs, and now we're mayor of the settlement. So nothing is conclusive or really happens of this book, as well as we blow it up. So between aggro for guards that may or may not still be in effect, actually the mayor but didn't confirm it, sign any paperwork, dot the T's, cross the I's, or other way. Anyway, and then we blew it up. So I don't know if it's going to have a huge impact on it, but I'm curious if that storyline is going to progress, or factors involved or revolved around that.
Yeah, we ended up meeting a Thundercat reject who happened to be a player who we basically saw his family all die and everything, and they exchange information. I owe you a debt. If you need me, call and I will come. And then we ended up learning that
the Skyfowl lady essentially had this long, elaborate ploy and plan. She is part of a family tree that was to cast some epic, awesome spell, and manipulated people or her husband to become the magistrate or the mayor. He passes away, puts the other guy up as the magistrate. She becomes the I just said it, ambassador lady or pawn, and then she resurrects her husband into some real, not real thing,
like a mana battery.
And uses him as a mana battery.
And I think he was a previous adventure too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a crawler, and I think he got out on the 10th floor, and that is why he's stuck as an NPC to play out this particular storyline, because we end up with him referencing that he was found prior and he didn't get his whole literary plot device out, so he died and essentially got recycled into when it happens again. But yeah, he finally gets through his whole story, which was essentially what we told you for Miss Skyfowl lady. I'm gonna remember her name sometime.
I think we're
magistrate.
We're pretty bad about that too. Whenever a quest giver or a villain wants to monologue, I'm at least pretty bad about waiting for them to finish before I just want to start the fight scene. I don't know. How about you?
I normally
you let them
or hit escape or space or click to see if I can get through it.
Spam slash.
Yeah, unless it was SWOTAR, because I had good cinematic,
that is true.
actual voice actors and
classic.
Oh man, I dabbled a bit in Lost Ark, and they'll have a voice actor for the opening line, and then they won't continue. It's like, oh, here's what I'm saying, and then a paragraph that you have to read one line at a time through clicking through, and no bueno.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we end up almost dying trying to save everybody, and then we got one of the Beanie Babies from the Skyfile lady, and the class that it's kept in is something like every time you open it, you could be hit with this horrible spell, or it's essentially indestructible. And so we end up putting the crystal in it, but we can't put it in our inventory, so it may or may not survive, and then it blows up. But at that point, we're able to actually put it into our inventory, which is essentially a stasis space. And we learned that through a lot of our explosives, where he literally lights explosives, reduces the countdown timer, and then sticks it in his inventory. So it's like a stasis field. I guess that's another thing we missed was the loot boxes, where we got Donut got Scatelophile, and Carl got knowledge about the Cesta Punta.
Basically flinging stuff, right? With this little
it's a game
hand cannon.
Yeah. I have no knowledge of the actual game, but yeah. And so the whole putting the exploding, several generation long spell in the crate or in the Beanie Baby container, and then putting it into our inventory where it's of imminent destruction is the book title. Carl's Doomsday scenario, worst case scenario. It's just like someone running up with C4 strapped to their chest and screaming words. He can at any time, in any place, as long as he has access to his inventory, threaten that.
Yeah.
But after saving everybody, and I love the AI commentary throughout it, it turns out that the guy who was being used as the battery is also going to explode, and we go through several varying magical explosions. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was unique how there's like precursor bursts and they affect things differently. Like the first one deactivated all abilities on your equipment, and then the second one like blew up magical equipment or whatever, and Donut ends up losing her crown.
I'm curious to see how that comes back to bite us later.
Yeah, I definitely think I figured that was going to be one of King Stalwart's extra things that he does, where because the faction thing is on the 9th floor, and that's part of it, where if you put on the crown, you're part of the succession line and you need to destroy whoever. So since Carl's evaded every other attempt at here's a nuke, go die, that being an extra ploy of getting one of his family members involved in it so that he has to confront him.
Right.
But yeah, Carl thinks that, everybody who has survived this long is smarter than that because they'll read it. And even though it has like it protects from, I think, poison, and has a poison or whatever with it. And then we end up having Hecla wait a little bit, and we get most of the people crawlers down through the stairway, and they get stasis because they're within the time limit where it's open, but you'll be held until the time.
They went down early, quote unquote.
Yeah, and we think that our bombs and all that will be done for and gone, but it ends up working because then when we get back on Audette's show, we get the whole rundown of Borant ended up using their mulligan or rebuttal or hey, not now thing, because they essentially would have been completely beeped and insurance of bankruptcy if they were on the hook for paying the taxation on all the celestial boxes. But then we get one guy who didn't like us from the get-go and
called them some names, and Donut kicked him out of group chat, right?
Yeah, you got to rule with an iron paw.
Yeah, but he's the one that got a celestial loot box.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think he essentially got like wings or whatnot.
Yeah.
And trying to think the epilogue.
The epilogue was Odette's show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so pretty much after floor 3, we go on her show and we learn about how they got screwed out of some epic loot, and how just more of the game mechanics work, right? About the celestial boxes being just like so overpowered.
Yeah.
They set some like crazy records. Like I think Odette said she got a total of 4, and she got farther than most.
I think she got 3. The
But
record was 4.
You're right.
Their event would have had like 60 something given out, but it would have been different ones.
Yeah. So the AI is not like totally in the showrunner's pocket, right? Like it operates independently and is kind of that balancing factor.
I was
the
like,
showrunners
aims for balance.
Yeah, the showrunners are trying to get as much money as they can out of this deal as possible and run it as tight as it could, but the AI was trying to compensate for just like how well they did. Chaz says, "Oh, a celestial loot box. That reminds me of Fortnite. Is this similar?"
This version of the dungeon, no, but there is a separate faction that runs the takeover of a planet as a battle royale. This one is more dungeon crawler, where our world gets turned into a 18 level dungeon, and it's kind of a free-for-all, but it's more PvE, or player versus environment, where you're trying to combat the AI and all of its dungeon minions and NPCs. And you can also battle royale as kill other crawlers and take their loot, but yeah, that's not in this version as of right now.
But the loot boxes themselves operate similar, right? Like Celestial, I think, is top tier,
highest ranking,
right? And they say Legendary's up there, but it's not. It goes Legendary, something else, and then Celestial, I think, if I'm remembering right. But yeah. A lot of fun. Appreciate the question. But yeah, that was an awesome summary there, Pete. I think you covered the bulk of the book. We did have some other minor scenes, like we get to go and see the Desperado Club.
Yep. And so the Lucia Mar with her Rottweilers or whatever, where Donut ends up trying a dirty Shirley and gets drunk.
She gets just like drunk off the cherries, right? Like licking the cherries. Yeah. That's a great summary right there, White Thatch. White Thatch says, Chaz, think insane AI downloads all the internet and then creates a game based on all game mechanics. Yeah. Chaz says, yeah, that paints a good picture. And then for the AI, just like take all the humor of the internet, good and bad, and that's kind of its personality, right? With an extreme foot fetish.
Yeah.
So loves Carl's toesies. Never thought I'd say that live on the internet, but Anyway,
I've been trying to find a bunch of side hustle-esque things, and
you want to start selling feet pics?
Feet pics keeps coming up on my TikTok as recommended content for creating money. And
if you're interested in buying pictures of Peter's feet to help the channel, just comment in in below. But yeah. Oh, too funny. Too funny. For books for second books, how did this stack up for you?
This one did well. I felt like book one had a little bit more progression, but it was also early enough.
And they got through 2 levels versus 1.
Yeah, 2 versus 1. But book 2 did well for 2 quests that were, progressive and dynamic. And we have a lot of potential stuff, like so much information of things going forward. We have the pork boy Snick from 1. Their father essentially is on floor 9 and has already attempted to kill Carl once. Then Carl, after almost dying, they fight, or the people shoot back and kill his wife. So not only has he disgraced his son, insulted his empire, and killed his wife, like that's about to come to a head. We have the Lucia Marr with the Rottweilers thing that Mordecai is essentially saying, hey, we're going to bring you guys together, but they're going to build it up. It's not going to be until later. We have the guy who insulted us in the chat who got the celestial loot box, who we don't agree with, but now he's been buffed or set up that I could see a conflict with
he's
going forward.
Later.
We have I believe it's an Asian individual who essentially lost the majority of the family, who we picked up the anklet from.
Our Thundercat.
Yeah, our Thundercat, who owes us a favor, who could, possibly be an ally. We have the Brynhild's daughters, where we've got one of their members with us, but it sounds like Odette thinks that
warning.
They want Donut and they want to take out Carl. So we've got some weird dynamic there where Hestia, I said her name, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, the one who's in our party currently seems genuine enough, seems like a good addition to our team dynamic going forward, but probably doesn't have the same intent of taking out Carl and getting Donut to join the Brynhild's daughters. And then I guess the other big crawler that we saw was the goat lady, where we haven't interactions. It's just been on the
recap episodes.
I was going to say halftime show, but yeah, recap episodes. So we have a lot of potential dynamics going forward. We do know we're going down to floor 4, and it is going to be, Mordecai calls it, imagine creating a bunch of rides or nightmare rides or something without testing any of them first. And he mentioned the one he references is in a previous episode or previous iteration. It was essentially the guts and intestines of some creature, but then it ended up getting some infection and essentially almost wiping out everybody and didn't play very well. So they're probably not going to do that. So interesting carnival rides ahead.
Did you get your combat fix for this book?
There were quite a few boss battles. We had just the random mobbing. We had almost being taken out by Signet the Elite, trying to summon her battle squad. We had the GTFO, get out of jail free, got the custard to heal the bear, but then it ends up healing the parasite out of it, which gives us an opening. We had the almost being taken out by giant plant monster Grimaldi, but then we plot armor our way out of it. We had the 21st Company, the city elves that we contested with.
Mm-hmm.
We had all of the we defeated the Skyfowl lady through bombs. We had the undead, dead, not dead. I died in disgraced, angry, and now I'm a vengeful spirit. But during the day, I work in the shops, and at night I do their bidding. And then we had I was a crawler. My whole family's dead. I had a wife. She wanted me to be part of her master ritual. Wouldn't let me die. Brought me back to life. I'm finally finished. I can now die, blow up, magical phenomenons. Yeah. And, Mongo's coming into his own. And I do also enjoy the, dynamic calling a play or playbooks that they're developing.
I was going to point that out too. It makes a lot of sense, right?
Oh, yeah. Or was that in this book? Oh, White Thatch says, looking forward to more Cart Lady storyline.
We didn't
I
see
can't
her
remember
a whole lot
her
this
name.
book, but we did. Is it Agnes?
That sounds close.
Yeah.
That's right. Anyway, so that's a whole separate additional dynamic that is interesting. So she's of a different faction that is more technological. And when Carl asks Audette if she knows or who are insert name, I can't remember. She says, yes, they run a show, but they do more tech related, like think armored robots. And essentially what happens is in the previous book 1, when we're going into the boss battle and she ends up getting in the boss battle, we pick up her cart and slot it into our inventory. Well, then we end up getting an ability to classify or rank our Agnes. Thank you. White Thatch. I believe it's the first one. Or Agnes. To classify our items, and it essentially says how rare or how valuable an item is if it knows. And it referenced that it had a communication device, but you can have them, you can sell them, you just can't utilize them inside the dungeon. And so we know that Agnes is of a different race, but she has not gone through the tutorial guild, so she doesn't have an inventory, and she essentially, my understanding, is outside the parameters of being influenced by the game. And I'm very curious to see what comes of that, and I could see it being a ally situation where we have the people trying to collect on the current people who are running the game, and she may be allied with the people trying to collect. So the fact that she's there, and if they step out of line or if something happens, she'll do something, or maybe she needs to make it so far, like we know with the floor 18 is supposedly some, casino or some like Vegas, essentially, some like, where all the high rollers go and, blow all their money and hang out. But we don't actually know because no one's made it down that far. They have to have a plan in place. But yeah. And Carl's like, oh, I figured it would be a bunch of dragons and other epic monsters.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's or Agatha? Or no, okay, maybe it is the second one.
Yeah, I think it's Agatha.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Second one. We're going with number 2.
we'll pay better attention and clarify it when we do the third one. So we're going to keep going with the series, right?
Yeah, we're close to current with releases, and there's definitely a lot more potential for content. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be continuing the series.
Any other thoughts, or ready to start plugging next Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern?
So, kind of like I said before, it's an enjoyable series. It's a little more on the whimsical side, kind of a palate cleanser, and gonna be continuing the series. But as far as next week goes, we're going to be doing Viridian Gate, the Lich Priest, which is, I want to say book 4, don't quote me on it, by James A. Hunter. And I've thoroughly been enjoying the LitRPG and the progression of Viridian Gate Online.
Yeah, this is a fun series. I'm looking forward to getting current and then also diving into some of the side series.
Yeah.
We've said it before, say it again. Love it when authors collaborate with other authors, allowing them to play in their universe and expand it. Just so
I think that's how we found James A. Hunter through Dakota Kraut. They collaborated on Wolfman Warlock. So found him through a collaboration. He does several collaborations. Brief kind of synopsis, spoiler free, of Viridian Gate. So the premise is we're all going to die. And that being said, the people of the world essentially are going to be hit by a meteor and perish. But there's technology that has advanced, and there is a company that is advancing the technology more and creating a LitRPG or creating a RPG MMO that people can go into. Currently, people can go in and play and come back out and be in their pod, but before the world ends and we all die, you can get in a pod and essentially, I believe it's nanites that are injected into your blood system, and they end up going through your blood system and mapping out your brain waves to where you can be downloaded into the game. And the server and all the hardware for the game to run is in a super secret underground mega bunker. And that's, kind of premise of book 1. And what I enjoy so much about this is the game mechanics are interesting, and the gods are essentially former or other AIs. And because the rush of the development of the game creation, they're all over the place. They have kind of a prime directive, and they have like what we're supposed to do. Like one is supposed to be in charge of PvE and dungeon instances. One is in charge of, weather and climate and other stuff. One is designed to, conclude conflict. One is designed to, anyway, they have a bunch of different premises, but for example, one of them is essentially a like Chinese or Russian military AI, and game mechanics are good. Artificial intelligence dynamic is interesting, and as well as it raises and tries to answer the question of, do the ends justify the means, or do I have to be better than the other guy and not go on a murdering spree? So I enjoy the series. It's definitely a lot deeper dive and theoretical.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'd recommend the series. Definitely a more intense LitRPG, game mechanics, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
with a unique, or I guess kind of traditional isekai feel, but unique aspect of how they got there.
And then the following week, we will be at Geek Out 120, Asgard, Book 9 of Artorian's Archives by Dennis Vanderkerken and World by Dakota Crowd. This is a Divine Dungeon Universe series.
Which I believe this will get us current with the Arturian Archives.
Currently,
Yeah, there's going to be more to be released, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's just getting real intense. I am a sucker for the magic behind the curtains, and just love Grandpa Sunshine, and love our favorite pillow mage, Artorian. And for those of you who don't know the series, there's the Completionist Chronicles, which is more traditional LitRPG, and then there's the Divine Dungeon series that is before it. We end up meeting Artorian in book 3 of the Divine Dungeon series. Artorian's Archives kind of takes place a little before that. We meet up with it. And then where we're at currently in the Artorian Archives is kind of in between. We get some of that filler between the two major series. So, White Thatch, quick question. Have you heard if any books for CC Completion Chronicles are coming out?
I know he's going to be continuing it. I think his most recent thing in the space is technically WW or Wolfman Warlock. I know Wolfman Warlock 2 came out, which is in the Completionist Chronicles universe, but it's a separate or side character.
Right. Though I'm ready for him to continue with more of the I arc, right? Because we got R done. We're getting into eyes, but I know he released a separate series more recently. I haven't really looked into it. I just know that he dropped several books. I saw him pop out on Audible, but I don't know if they're straight up LitRPG. It's something we'll have to look into.
Yeah.
But then something.
Oh,
Murder Hobo also came out.
Separate IP, anything.
Oh, anything, yes.
In the something Full Murder Hobo arc or story set.
Yes. But back on point, Artorian Archives, amazing addition to the Divine Dungeon universe. We've been spoiled. Dennis Vanderkerken, the author himself, usually hops in and answers some of our questions for us, clarifies, and just like the community is amazing. Go hop on their Discord because those authors really do listen to the readers' feedback, and Dennis tries to expand a bit more on what we want to see, what we want to learn, which is just freaking amazing and a lot of fun. Yeah. And we have to give White Thatch a shout out for this. He was on us to pick up Artorian Archives for a while. So thank you, White Thatch. Thank you, everyone who joined us for this live stream. Keep sending us your book recommendations. We also have some other future collabs coming up. We just did a collaboration with our buddy Chaz over on his channel yesterday. So you can go check out the archive live stream over there of the Bobaverse. We're trying to get Peter to branch out a little bit from LitRPGs and play in some other spaces. So if you think there's some good sci-fi and or fantasy that maybe has some LitRPG vibes that Pete would enjoy, We had one that came through. It might even be 121. The Perfect Run kind of has some lit RPG vibes, but isn't a lit RPG, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's I would consider it.
It's more.
It is a little bit of everything. It is lit RPG esque because our main character has a gaming background and his ability is quick save, where he can restore from a previous save. But it's sci-fi and it is a futuristic, apocalyptic, advanced but crippled world. But then it's fantasy because how we got our powers was through a portal to other dimensions that were harnessed by an alchemist and bottled. It's enjoyable.
I think that could still be sci-fi. Anyway, we digress. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Both Pete and I really look forward to doing these little geek outs with everybody. So yeah. Appreciate it, and we look forward to hanging out with you guys next week.
White Thatch asking, have you read any Dungeon Core books? I'm not sure if you're talking about the actual series where a guy gets shot off it, or there is a Dungeon Core series, and it was enjoyable, but kind of like not quite satisfying. And I got to go back and revisit it, but I would consider Divine Dungeon a halfway Dungeon Core because you follow the aspect of a Dungeon Core that's growing and developing and doing stuff. But I need more Dungeon Core-esque books in my life.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you for geeking out with us. Hope to geek out with you again here soon. Bye.